The knock slices the hallway. Choose, Lena, the boardroom or the boy. Darius steadies her spine as flashbulbs stutter through the rain. From the stairs, Max whispers, "Is the moon still following us?" And she reaches for the latch. Before we dive in, make sure to hit subscribe, tap like, and share this video. The more voices we reach, the louder these stories become. And drop your city in the comments. Let's see where love finds us. The rain came the way it always does in Manchester, like a whisper that suddenly remembers its power. You could smell it in the concrete, in the steam rising from paper trays of chips, in the wool of scarves that had seen too many seasons to count. Darius Cole tugged his beanie lower and checked the time again, even though there was no point. Kickoff was minutes away, the siren of the crowd already pulsing, Old Trafford's floodlights opening the night like a stage. He'd promised himself he wouldn't think about work. No broken-down buses, no overtime, no tallying the exact price of rent and how many hours of sleep he'd traded for it. His mate Jamal had scored the ticket from a cousin who bailed last minute, then couldn't make it himself. "Take it, Bruve. Go feel human," Jamal had said, the kind of joke that sounds like a dare. So Darius went, shoving guilt into the pocket of his jacket next to his phone and a keychain his little sister gave him for luck. He had barely found his seat, a decent one 20 rows up, just under the lip where the rain hit and slid off in silver beads, when the aisle clogged with bodies. Chants rippled to the left, red flags to the right, and then she appeared in the bottleneck like a lighthouse that didn't know its own brightness, blonde hair in soft waves from under a navy cap. Blue eyes, trying to stay polite and calm while people packed tight around her. A coat tied at the waist that didn't hide much. She was thick and curvy in a way that made Darius feel both warmed and suddenly shy. She had 2 steaming cups balanced in a cardboard tray and a small leather bag under her arm. Her mouth shaped the words "excuse me," then surrendered when no one made space. Darius stood without thinking. "Take my seat," he said, voice steady like a promise. She rushed a smile he felt in his ribs. "You'll miss the view." "I've stood for worse," he said. The truth was he'd stood all day at the depot and would probably feel his knees in the morning. But right now, with the stadium humming and her cheeks flushed from the cold, it felt easy to be generous. He shifted, wedging himself near the aisle and the rail while she slid into the seat. The slope of the stands forced everyone to lean forward. Her shoulder brushed his thigh when she situated the cups. One of them wobbled as the crowd erupted for the players walking out. Darius instinctively steadied the tray with one broad hand, his fingertips grazing hers. "Thank you," she breathed, louder than the noise should have allowed. "I'm Lena." "Darius." The field flashed green, cameras blinked, everyone sang. He didn't know the exact second it happened, only that he realized he was still holding the edge of her cup tray, keeping it level against the swell and fall of thousands of bodies. When he let go, his hand felt both colder and too warm. Chelsea took early possession. Old Trafford roared back disapproval like bad weather. Beside him, Lena watched with a concentration that surprised him. She wasn't posturing, she was in it. When a United forward skied a sitter into the Stretford end and groans crackled like electricity, she laughed. Low and embarrassed, the laugh of someone who's used to containing herself and forgot. "You really watch?" he asked, leaning down so she could hear. "Religiously," she said, a blush rising that wasn't just from the wind. "I know, I don't look like you know who's offside," he teased. "Like I know who Mason Mount is." She grinned, quick and wicked. She shifted the tray to hand him the spare cup. "This one was for my friend who bailed last minute. I don't drink 2 at once. I mean, I could, but I try to make good choices in public." Her humour sat duck-footed and charming between them. He took the tea, grateful for the heat. To second chances, then. To decent strangers. She tapped his cup lightly. Their eyes held a moment longer than politeness required. Something threaded taut between them, the kind of line you don't feel until you tug it. A steward came through, asking people to stop blocking the aisle. Darius shifted again, planting himself as a human buffer, so the press of movement skimmed past Lena without jostling her. She glanced up at him each time the crowd surged, a private acknowledgement that tugged another quieter chord. By the 20th minute, United had weathered 2 dangerous breaks, and the fans had invented new swear words for the referee. Darius found himself narrating little details to her. How a defender's shoulders squared wrong, how a winger telegraphed his feint. And she countered with analysis that was sharp and funny. She used her hands when she talked, and sometimes her coat gaped to remind him that under the stadium layers was a body generous with curves and confident enough to exist without apology. He didn't try to guess her story. He just let it be good. The rain like static, the pitch a jewel. This woman who looked like she belonged in a glossy magazine, choosing to sit here with him and argue about tactics with a seriousness that made him want to cheer for whatever side she picked. The man to their left spilled beer in a sudden celebratory flinch. Darius's hand shot out, catching the tray before it tipped into Lena's lap. He didn't think, he just acted. The man apologized profusely. Lena looked at Darius with a look that was something like startle and something like recognition. "You just saved my jeans," she said softly. "Hero move." "I work with messes," he said. "Occupational habit. What do you do?" "Maintenance at the bus depot, fix what breaks, keep the city moving if I can." He waited for the flicker, the polite nod that often followed. People always say nice things about essential work and then look past it. Lena didn't. "That's honest," she said. "Hard to find. You?" She laughed that contained laugh again, self-mocking. "I? Consult." "On what?" she said at first, evasive on instinct. Then she added, "I advise companies, who to hire, who to fire, how to not sink the ship." He smiled. It sounded like a job that lived in glass towers. It sounded like someone who wore that coat and the kind of perfume that smelled expensive even in cold air. He filed it away with the way she checked her phone twice and frowned as if she'd left something halfway done. At half-time, she offered him the last bite of a steak pie. "I can't eat the crust," she confessed. "I'll cry about it later." And he brought them 2 more teas because his hands needed something to do. The concourse thrummed with song. His phone buzzed with a message from his sister. "You at the game?" "TV looking for you, big head," and he sent a selfie angled so Lena wouldn't be in it, then felt stupid for caring. When he returned, Lena was on a call, turned partly away, voice low. He wasn't trying to listen, but words carried in pauses. "Yes, I saw. I know it's late there. No, I'll be home by 11. The sitter is fine. He's asleep. No, don't worry. I'm not alone." The last sentence did something to him. He pretended to check the scoreboard while the line inside him tightened and then tried to resume its slack. She ended the call and winced, embarrassed. "My son," she said, offering the truth before he could ask. "He's 5. His sitter is a saint. I hate leaving him, but—" She stopped herself before the word selfish arrived. "It's good for me to have a night sometimes." Darius nodded. He didn't let himself show how quickly "my son" had shifted the ground under his feet, not in a bad way, just clearer. "He like football?" "Obsessed," she said, and relief flashed that he didn't flinch. "We play in the hallway with rolled-up socks. He thinks the laundry basket is Old Trafford." "You're raising him right," Darius said, and it wasn't a line. When the second half began, the match broke open. A scrum in the box, a deflection, the net rippling like a promise kept. Old Trafford detonated. Darius forgot to be careful. He whooped and scooped Lena in an instinct he couldn't restrain, her feet lifting an inch from the concrete as if joy had its own physics. She clung to his shoulders, laughing into the collar of his jacket, the brim of her cap brushing his cheek. For a beat, the whole world narrowed to that contact. The way her body fit against his, the warm shock of it, the startled yes somewhere under her breath. He set her down at once, a little stunned at himself, at them. "Sorry," he shouted over the roar. "Don't be," she shouted back, eyes bright in a way that made him want to do it again. Worth the price of admission. Play resumed. The rain thickened. He felt her hand, light as a secret, hook into the crook of his arm when the crowd swayed too hard. He didn't move. He didn't want to. When the final whistle went and people began to stream toward the exits like a single organism, he should have said goodbye, should have let the night be the night. Instead, in the slow crush of bodies, Lena turned to him and said, "Thank you for the seat, and the tea, and catching my catastrophe before it happened." "You can repay me," he said, then immediately wished he'd chosen a different sentence structure. She raised an eyebrow, amused. "Oh. Tell me your favourite match you've ever watched," he recovered, "so I can argue you're wrong and we can both be right." Her smile became something he wanted to memorize. "Or," she said, fumbling in her bag for a pen that looked too nice for its job, "you could text me that argument later, if you want." She took his cup, wrote numbers in tidy loops along the rim, handed it back like a dare. Rain haloed her hair. Somewhere a chant lingered. "I'm not always this spontaneous." "Me neither," he said, aware that everything could now be measured as before or after this. She hesitated, then added quietly, "I'm complicated, life-wise." He looked at the number on the cup. He thought of the ring of her laugh, the heat of her hand on his arm, the word son, the way her eyes had softened when he mentioned keeping the city moving. "I can handle complicated," he said, and meant it. She nodded, as if committing the line to memory. A steward's whistle blew. The crowd nudged them forward into the wet night. He watched her disappear into a sea of red and blue umbrellas, a thick, curvy silhouette threading toward the street like a plot point he hadn't seen coming. His tea had gone cold. He didn't care. He felt full in a way that wasn't about food. Unaware, still, of who she was beyond Lena with the pie and the quick mind and the boy waiting at home. Unaware that the car waiting at the curb had a driver who opened her door. Unaware of the townhouse with the black door and brass knocker, the closet full of coats that cost more than his rent. Unaware, but not for long, because his phone buzzed and a message blinked onto the rain-smeared screen like a start. "You didn't drop the tea," she wrote. "That seems like a good sign." "Lena," he typed back with cold thumbs and a grin he couldn't swallow, "I only drop things that don't matter. You matter." 3 dots flickered, paused, returned. "Careful," she sent. "I'm more of a handful than I look." He looked at the cup with her number, at the stadium that bled light into... Don't forget to subscribe for more intense cinematic love stories. Your click helps us make the next chapter. The message sat between them like a small, bright animal all next day, skittish, alive, impossible to ignore. Darius reread it in the depot break room with the smell of diesel and coffee grounds clinging to his hoodie. "Careful. I'm more of a handful than I look." He kept grinning at the word handful until his supervisor asked if the torque wrench had told him a joke. On his lunch break, he counted how many minutes were too eager before replying. He settled on 9. "What does complicated look like tonight?" he typed. "If it looks like 20 minutes, I'll take 20. It took an hour for the 3 dots to appear, disappear, return. The rest of his day stacked itself between those ellipses. He replaced brake pads, extracted a stubborn bolt like a splinter, climbed down, climbed up, tried not to think of her laugh pressed into the collar of his jacket when the goal went in. "I could spare 25, came her answer near closing. "There is a cafe on Deansgate that doesn't make me talk over a blender. 7:30, if you're brave." Brave was a word that did not belong to his evenings. Even so, he said yes like a coin dropped into a jar he'd kept empty for too long. He showered in the tiny bathroom of his flat, steam lifting his fatigue until his mirror cleared to a face he sometimes liked and sometimes blamed. He chose the shirt his sister called "your nice one," dark with a discreet check. Ironed as best he could on the counter. The night smelled like rain again, Manchester doing its one trick and doing it well. He caught himself imagining Lena in that coat, imagining her mouth searching for words she usually swallowed. He told himself not to be foolish. He told himself to be foolish. Deansgate was a river of umbrellas and taxi lights. The cafe's windows glowed amber, human-shaped shadows flickering behind the glass. He arrived 5 minutes early, sat 3 stools from the till, and pretended to read a chalkboard menu he could have recited blind. The barista, nose ring, kind eyes, gave him a glass of water he hadn't ordered, which made him feel seen and therefore embarrassed. At 7:31, the door opened and heat came with her. Not just from outside, she warmed the air by existing in it. Her coat was a different one tonight, shorter, camel-coloured, belt cinched. Under it, a black knit dress that didn't ask permission to hold her curves. Her hair was pinned up with a grip that would give up later. A faint gold chain at her throat drew the eye like a path. She looked like the idea of comfort if comfort had legs. She saw him and her face performed that double take, relief and surprise braided together, that you can't fake. "Hi," she said, for the second time in 2 nights, and somehow the sound of it was enough. "Hi." He stood. "You came." "I said I would," she said, amused. "Low bar for a miracle, but I'll take it." They ordered tea again, habit forming faster than either of them expected. She asked for hers in a real cup, not paper, and the barista nodded like this was a code. They found a corner where the hum of conversation turned private. 25 minutes in a cafe can be a long time if you let it. So, she said, wrapping both hands around the cup, you work with messes. I said I consult. Those are job-shaped facts. Should we trade real ones? You go first, he said. I was the one who spilled being boring first. You weren't boring, she said softly. You were modest. He lifted a shoulder. If I'm bragging, I'll tell you I can pull a transmission without swearing. I hire the people who decide which buses get fixed, she said dryly, then winced at how that sounded. That's not it. Look, she breathed, gathering herself. My life is a house with many rooms. Some are locked. Some are full of Lego and French toast crumbs. I live in the crumb room, the happiest. The lock room pays the bills. Said like a poet, he said. Said like a coward, she corrected, but smiled. I own a firm that advises other companies. It grew faster than I meant it to. Money happened. I got very good at pretending that didn't change me. He let that settle. He watched the careful way she held herself when she admitted wealth, like bracing against recoil. And the other rooms? My son, she said, and this time she didn't apologize for the word. Max, he is 5 and hungry for everything. He thinks the moon follows him to school. He decided last week that the letter S is too sneaky and refuses to write it. Darius tried to imagine a boy in a hallway kicking socks into a laundry basket net, an S reduced to a hiss. Something tender and fierce filled him at once. I want to meet him, he said before he could be prudent. Then, because he was not a thief of other people's time, he added, not yet, not like that. I just want to not be the reason you forget you're allowed to have nice evenings. Her eyes glossed in a way she seemed to resent. I don't forget, she said. I just don't allow, often. Who taught you that? He asked. She looked down. People who loved me the way a company loves a quarter, she said. My ex thought partnership was a merit badge. He loved winning more than he loved being there. He left before Max was born. Then I learned to fill all the chairs at the table by myself. He thought of chairs. He thought of the way he'd stood so she could sit. What do you want tonight? He asked. What I got yesterday, she said. A seat, a view, a person who didn't tell me I was anything other than exactly what he saw. They were quiet, the sort of way that makes noise irrelevant. The cafe's speakers played something with a piano that knew how to listen. Outside, someone laughed too loud. A driver idled at the curb in a car that did not belong to this street. Lena glanced toward the window and back, caught. You came with a driver, he said, not unkindly. The words weren't a spear. They were a statement he offered her room to inhabit. She didn't look away. Yes. You're allowed to be safe, he said. A part of him, small and boyish, hurt anyway. I would have walked, she said, honest. I wanted to. Then Max's sitter sent a picture of him sleeping with his arm across his face like a tiny grown man, and I remembered the last time I stood in a dark car park alone. She swallowed. People see different things when they see me. Sometimes that's dangerous. The word shifted the air. He didn't ask for details. He didn't need to. He filed away a promise he would keep if he got the chance. Be a buffer in a world that likes to bruise. Her phone buzzed. A name flashed he couldn't quite catch. Lena glanced, typed a reply, put it face down as if setting a boundary. 25 minutes became 30. The barista wiped a clean counter that didn't need it and pretended not to give them grace. Tell me a thing that isn't a job, she said, lightening herself. Tell me what you loved when you were small. Taking radios apart, he said. Putting them back together, sometimes making them pick up a station from somewhere stupid, like Berlin. I thought I could listen to people when they didn't mean to be heard. I was insufferable at 13. Bet you were adorable, she said, and then with a conspiratorial tilt, I loved backstage. I wasn't an actor. I liked being the one with the clipboard. Power without attention. The ability to dim the lights and make everyone gasp at once. That's still who you are, he said. And you, she returned, still listen to frequencies nobody else knows are there. They smiled at the same time. Outside, the driver checked his watch in a beam of headlight. I should go, she said reluctantly. If I'm lucky, I'll get to stand in a doorway and watch him breathe for a minute. He nodded, the ache of that image a good one. Can I? he gestured, not sure what he was asking to do. Offer the door? Offer the night? Walk me to the car, she said, saving him. Then we'll do this again without a time limit. Or we'll fail spectacularly and file it under good story. They stepped into the rain and made a small roof of his jacket between them. The driver saw them and straightened. Lena nodded at him like a colleague. She turned to Darius a foot from the curb. The city wrapped sound around them, tires sighing, a taxi horn, the heavy hush before midnight has a claim. "Thank you," she said, too soft for the driver to hear, "for not looking at me like a headline." "Thank you for not looking at me like a footnote," he answered. She surprised him then, rose on her toes and pressed a kiss to his cheek, the corner of his mouth catching the edge of it so that it lit a fuse backwards through his body. It wasn't a promise. It was a proof of concept. He stood perfectly still, as if movement would smudge it. Her voice lowered. "I am very good at running my life," she said. "I am very bad at letting anyone jog beside me. If you catch me looking over my shoulder, don't take it personally." "I'll just keep pace," he said. "No pressure, no stopwatch." "God, a metaphor," she teased, relieved at the humour. "I almost forgot the English language could be sweet." She climbed into the car and the driver pulled away smooth as punctuation. Darius watched the taillights recede down Deansgate and become just another pair among many. Rain stitched his hair to his forehead. He didn't move for a long breath. Then another. His phone buzzed. A photo arrived, small feet in dinosaur pyjamas, one heel dirty with playground dust even though it had been washed, a boy asleep like he'd fallen mid-argument with the moon. Under it, Lena's message, "This is Max. He snores like a tiny dragon." Darius, who had never met a dragon he didn't want to fix the armor for, texted back, "Tell him I'm on his team." A pause. Then, "And mine?" He stared at the words until his chest found an answer that felt like a new kind of work he could love. "Always," he wrote. Then he deleted it. It was too large, too soon, and typed, "I'll earn that jersey." Her reply came quick this time, an exhale he could almost hear. "Good. I like men who know the season is long." He walked home in the rain that tasted like victory and fear and the start of something that would need both his hands. In his pocket, his sister texted, "Are you alive?" He thumbed back, "I'm trying it." She sent 13 heart emojis and a gif of a man fainting dramatically. Under streetlights melted to butter by the wet, he thought of the rooms in her life, the locked ones, the crumb ones, and how sometimes the bravest thing isn't opening a door, but sitting in the hallway with someone who doesn't rush you. He thought of Max's dusty heel. He thought of a seat offered because a body needed it. And how sometimes the first kindness is a map to all the harder ones. In his building, the stairwells smelled like yesterday's curry and someone's perfume. His key stuck, then turned. He dropped his jacket on the chair, set his phone on the counter, and closed his eyes in a room that was all his. He felt the shape of the kiss on his mouth like a thumbprint. He set his alarm, then stilled his hand and unlocked the screen again, just to be sure the message was still there. It was. He slept with the radio of his chest tuned to a station that said in static and signal, "Keep pace." The next time they saw each other, it wasn't a date so much as a negotiated ceasefire with time. Lena texted at noon on Saturday. "Max woke me at 5, insisting the moon was following him to cereal. We are both feral. There's a little park by the canal. 20 minutes? If you can stand opinions about puddles." He was changing oil on a bus with a history of bad decisions when his phone buzzed in his pocket. He read the message twice, a grin scoring into his dirty face. 10 minutes, he told Jamal, who was lined up under the neighbouring chassis. "I need 20 to be a person." "You already look like one," Jamal said, then squinted. "But go. You keep walking round here like the radio's playing inside your head." "It is," Darius said, and when he scrubbed his hands at the sink, he did it with care, as if the park required a certain ceremony. The canal wore the sky like a bruise, purple-grey, softening at the edges. The park's path curved around bare trees and a playground that squeaked even when empty. He saw them before they saw him. Lena in a wool hat with a pom that made her look younger, a camel coat open to show a thick black sweater, jeans cut to honour the life they contained. Max in a red rain jacket and wellies that had obviously leapt into puddles many times already. Max spotted him, froze with the performative suspicion of 5-year-olds, then approached like a cautious scout. "Are you Darius?" he asked, rolling the name like it had wheels. I am, Darius said solemnly, squatting to meet him. Are you Maximus, commander of Puddles? Max considered this. I am Max. I'm not allowed to be a dinosaur in the house. Outside I can be a dinosaur, but only if I don't bite. Fair law, Darius said. He produced a small treasure from his pocket, a foam mini football, blue as the cold. For hallway practice. Won't shatter a light. Max took it, inspected seams, nodded once like a foreman who'd been pleased by a subcontractor. He launched it immediately toward a bench with the accuracy of fate. It bounced off and into a puddle, and his joy cracked the grey morning open. Lena exhaled a laugh that was mostly relief. Thank you. He has opinions about round things. That makes two of us, Darius said, then turned as Max tugged his sleeve. Can you make it spiral? Max demanded. Only if you whisper a secret to it first, Darius said. Balls go where confidence tells them. Max put his mouth to the foam and whispered something so intensely the ball might blush. Darius threw. The spiral wasn't perfect, but it was pretty, the kind of tightness that makes you think the world obeys intention. Max whooped. Lena watched, her eyes bright and tired and full. They walked a loop that turned a short visit into a story. Max narrated sights as if he'd invented each one. This tree is Big Daddy Tree. This bench is where we sit when we are cross about S. This puddle is called Sir. He stomped Sir with ceremony, then shot Darius a warning glare. You may not say the letter that is sneaky. Understood, Darius said. We will speak only honourable letters today. Lena fell into step beside him, their shoulders almost brushing. Thank you for meeting us, she said. I told him we were seeing a friend, and he asked if it was the kind who brings snacks or the kind who brings stories. I said hopefully both. I can attempt both, Darius said. I'll fail gloriously at carrot sticks. Good, she said, and then lowered her voice. He warmed to you faster than he warms to most. That's not a small thing. I didn't bring S, Darius said. That helps. They stopped at the playground. Max attacked the climbing frame like a lawyer cross-examining gravity. Darius hovered enough to be a net without stealing the fall. When Max stuck on the third bar, hanging by his elbows, Darius said calmly, Try your toes like you're whispering to the bar. Little tap. There. See? Bodies like to understand. Max did it, triumphant. Lena made a noise in her throat like gratitude and grief had agreed to a truce. They sat on a bench while Max made a compelling case for being allowed to be a pterodactyl on the slide. The city smelled of damp and leaves and coffee from a van across the path. Lena cupped her thermos in both hands, breathed steam. I should have said earlier, she murmured. The driver is around the corner. I didn't want. She searched for the right word. Attention. You get to define safe, Darius said, including invisible. She studied him. Doesn't it bother you that my life keeps making entrances? It bothers me when it hurts you, he said, not when it keeps you safe. I've been made to feel small by rooms that weren't built for me. I know the look of that. I won't be another room like that. Her face changed at that, as if a lock had recognized a key cut to its shape. She looked away before it overwhelmed her and instead watched Max, who was instructing an older boy on proper slide etiquette with the gravitas of a parliamentarian. The call came like weather. Her phone vibrated. She glanced, stilled, then answered with a professional voice that closed a door. Yes, tell them the board packet was finalized last night. No, he can't push that through without a vote. We've been over this. A pause while the other side poured urgency. I'm with my son, she said, softer. I'm at the... She stopped. She never said locations. I'll dial in at 1, no sooner. She ended the call and stared at her hands, anger and fatigue fighting for the same seat. I used to believe that if I did everything right, every draft perfect, every person appeased, the world would repay me with mercy. Turns out it just repays you with more work. Work is greedy, Darius said. You can say no and it will call you at 3 a.m. anyway. She laughed, surprised. And you? The depot never rings in the middle of the night. Oh, it does, he said, but the buses don't pretend they love me. He saw the edges of her mouth soften. She leaned back. Max slid down on his belly, clothed in mud and joy, and barreled toward them. Mum, he announced, breathless. I made a friend who thinks S is fine, and I said no, and now he knows things. Excellent civic duty, Lena said, stroking his hair back. Hey, I need to make a phone call later. Would you mind if we went home after this and you watched your space show while I talk? Max weighed this. Only if Darius comes and we make toast. Lena blinked as if a vote had been called without her. She looked at Darius. If you're okay with that, Darius said. He kept his voice even, non-threatening to boundaries. I can set the toaster to exactly the right bravery. Bravery, Max repeated, pleased. Toast bravery is 4. Obviously, Darius said. So they went. The driver appeared as if conjured, all discretion and good wool. Darius expected to peel off and make his way to the bus stop, but Max beamed at him like a lighthouse and tugged his hand toward the car's open door. Darius looked at Lena, waited for the no. She weighed her life with her eyes, a habit. Then she nodded. Come. The car made the city slip by like a different country. Darius watched buildings he knew look more expensive through tinted glass. The townhouse had black railings, a brass knocker that would photograph well, a hallway that managed to be both spare and generous. It smelled like lemon and something warmer, like a memory of cake. A woman in her 50s with calm hands met them in the entryway. Afternoon, Miss Hart, she said, eyes flicking to Max, then to Darius with a receptionist's polite question mark. June, Lena said. This is Darius. He's a friend. June's face moved 0.5 millimeter toward a smile. Welcome, tea? Max sprinted to a basket of toys like a homing pigeon. Darius stood very still until the house adjusted around him. He knew how to be in rooms that weren't built for him. Quiet, precise, useful. He watched for cues. He looked at the electrical outlets out of instinct and catalogued the brand of the toaster. Smeg, white, 4 slices, confidence level high. In the kitchen, Lena pointed to a tin. Construction toast, she said. Max believes architecture begins with toast cut into triangles. I mean, Darius said, washing his hands at the sink that gleamed. He's not wrong. Max narrated the process like a broadcaster. We need butter courage. We need brave 4. We need the knife that is not the knife. Darius complied. He set the dial to 4, lifted the lever, waited for the satisfying roar of the elements. When the slice popped, Max cheered like Old Trafford in miniature. Darius buttered with an engineer's evenness, crust to crust, then sliced with the knot knife, a plastic spreader masquerading as an airplane. Lena leaned in the doorway, watching as if trying to memorize ordinary. The kitchen partnered with her, the marble, the high windows, the plant that hadn't given up despite winter. She caught his eye and mouthed thank you. He shook his head. You're welcome, I'm just breathing. When 1 o'clock came, the board materialized in her laptop, a grid of faces that wore power like a skin. She sat at the table and shifted into that register he'd heard in the park, the one that lowered, not because she was timid, but because she understood that control begins with tone. We won't push the vote, she said, crisp. We will distribute the risk memo to all members before end of day. If anyone breaks quorum, we reconvene Monday. Max climbed into Darius's lap mid-call and set about watching his space show with a commentary that came in whispers because he was proud of following rules. That man is floating because the spaceship loves him, he explained. Darius murmured appropriate awe. He felt the weight of a small boy settling trust into his legs and something deep inside him unspooled. Between speakers, Lena looked up. What she saw, Max flopped sideways, Darius anchoring him with one arm while flipping toast triangles with the other, sent a crack through her armor you could drive hope through. She closed the laptop with a final decisive click 40 minutes later, exhausted and victorious by inches. Come see our hallway stadium, Max demanded, already off the couch. Mum is the referee because she says when it is bath. In the hallway, laundry basket goalposts awaited. Darius threw gentle spirals. Max invented chants. Lena leaned in the doorframe, that camel coat now slung on a hook, her sweater pushed to her elbows, her wrist bones precise as punctuation. She corrected a call cheerfully. She called bath with the authority of monarchs. It should have been small, but it wasn't. It was a life, briefly in focus. Later, with June orchestrating bedtime and the house settling into its own purr, Lena walked Darius to the door. The street was quieter now, the sky a heavy lid of wool. They stood halfway between foyer and outside, in that private hinge where decisions live. I don't do this, she said quietly. Bringing someone into this... She gestured to the house, the rooms, the crumbs, the locked doors. I don't let people see the unglossed parts. I like the unglossed parts, he said. They don't slip. She swayed a fraction closer. "This scares me," she admitted. "Not you. How I feel, the speed of it, the way Max looked at you like you were the right shape for his day. I can go as slow as you like," he said, "or stop, or wait outside and wave at the window for a month if that's what makes it safe." "What if I ask you to come in and then panic?" she asked, raw. "I'll stand with you while you panic," he said simply. "Then we'll make toast." Her laugh cracked, broke into something wet and real. She reached up, not for his mouth, but for the back of his neck, her fingers threading there like they belonged. The kiss was less a fuse and more a word learned correctly for the first time, pronounced with care, repeated, understood. When they parted, she rested her forehead against his. "What station are you listening to right now?" she whispered. "Yours," he said. "It's clear." A shape moved across the street, a silhouette that made her flinch so slightly, Darius felt it more than saw it. The driver, just returning from a smoke. Nothing more. But her body had already filed the reflex. He drew back enough to see her eyes. "Did someone hurt you?" he asked softly, not as a demand, as an inventory. "Yes," she said, equal parts truth and air. "Not with fists, with decisions." He nodded. "I fix what breaks," he said. "Not everything, but some." She kissed his cheek once more, then put her hand on the door like a referee about to end extra time. "Tomorrow," she said, "text me the bravest toast you've ever made." He stepped into the cold and looked back only once. Max had escaped bedtime long enough to appear at the top of the stairs, hair a haystack, one hand lifted like a half-mast flag. Darius saluted with the mini-football. Max saluted back, satisfied with the exchange. The door closed softly, the kind of quiet that is a choice, not a silence. Darius stood on the pavement and felt the world adjust around a new centre. He didn't know then that the board vote would collapse on Monday like a bad scaffold, or that someone from Lena's world would decide Darius was an inconvenience to be managed. He didn't know the specific shape of the storm, only that weather had shifted, and he had found a place to stand. He put his hands in his pockets and walked, listening to the station he had chosen. The city hummed. Somewhere a bus sighed into its stop like an animal bedding down. Somewhere, a boy who believed letters had personalities dreamed of space and toast and men who could make spirals on demand. Monday broke like a glass dropped in a quiet room. No warning, just shatter. Darius woke early, nerves tuning themselves to a frequency he didn't have words for. At the depot, the coffee tasted like cardboard and the jokes slumped. He texted Lena a photo of toast bravery set to 4, triangles stacked like a tiny skyline on his chipped plate. She sent back a picture of Max in a school jumper, hair half-tamed, mouthful of cereal, one triangle held aloft like a trophy. Under it, War Council at 9. If I disappear, it means they're trying to make me smaller than a chair again. He pocketed the phone like a talisman and went to work. By 10, the depot's office TV, perpetually tuned to news that never helped anyone fix anything, flashed Lena's world across the dusty screen. Not her face, her company's logo. Words scrolled, board split on risk vote, leaked memo rattles market. Darius didn't know what the memo said, only that the tone in the anchor's voice made it sound like a storm front. 15 minutes later, the depot door opened and the storm walked in on leather soles. The man had the kind of coat that asks you to apologize for your day. Tall, silver at the temples, a smile that wasn't for people, only for outcomes. He glanced at the grease, the parts, the life here, then found Darius with the unerring accuracy of someone who had done his homework. "Mr. Cole?" he asked. Voice smooth, accent shaved sharp. "I'm Oliver Brand." Jamal looked up from the parts counter and raised his eyebrows, a silent "Are we in trouble?" Darius wiped his hands with deliberation, as if entirely too much depended on staying precise. "We're closed to sales," he said. It wasn't true, but it was a sentence that bought time. Oliver's smile refined itself. "I'm not here to buy a bus. I'm here because you are, by all accounts, an honourable man. Miss Hart is in a difficult position. She's asked, indirectly, that her personal life remain personal. I'm here to help make that easy for you." "By doing what?" Darius asked, though he already felt the bad shape of it. "By providing a respectful distance," Oliver said, producing a card as if it were a spell. "Take some time. See how the next few weeks shake out. In recognition of the disruption," a slim envelope appeared, the kind that can hold more money than looks possible, "we'll ensure your considerations are met." a gentleman's arrangement. The office went quiet in the way engines go quiet when you cut the power at the main. Darius stared at the envelope and felt something old and tender in him flare like an alarm. So this is what they see when they look at me, he thought, a problem to be paid like a parking ticket. He didn't touch it. Did Lena send you? I represent the board's interests, Oliver said smoothly. We all want Miss Hart to succeed. Distractions are unkind right now. Jamal made a noise that might have been a laugh if it hadn't sounded like a snapped bolt. Darius took the card, not the envelope. The card was thick. The letters were recessed. Wealth that doesn't need to say please. He broke eye contact first, not because he was cowed, but because he knew better than to fight on a man like this's battlefield. You can leave, he said, quickly. Oliver's smile vanished so completely you could have believed you hallucinated it. Be prudent, Mr. Cole. The press would have a field day with pictures of... Darius stepped forward, not menacing, just present. It is a thing to be a man who fixes heavy things. Your body learns where its edges are useful. I said, he repeated quietly, leave. Oliver weighed risk the way people like him do, on a scale hidden in their palm. He decided to live another day and turned on his expensive heel. At the door he paused, setting the envelope down on the counter like a dare. For the inconvenience, he said, and went into the rain. Jamal stared at it like it might bite. Bruv, he breathed, half awed, half furious. He really came here with hush money. Darius didn't answer. He watched his phone like it was a lifeline that had forgotten he existed. No message. No missed call. He didn't know if she had sent the man or if the man had sent himself and promised to call it help. He only knew that an old story had been pulled from a shelf and set in his lap. You are an inconvenience to be managed. He picked up the envelope, opened it, and counted the bills. He counted the way you count screws, exactly, without flinching. Then he slid the money back inside, fetched the depot's battered donation tin, and shoved the envelope through the slot. New filters for the youth shop project, he said. No one gets to buy my leaving. He wrote Oliver's name on the tin with a Sharpie and added a smiley face for Jamal's benefit. It didn't help. Jamal swore softly and clapped him on the shoulder in a way that said both I hate this and I'm proud of you. At noon his phone buzzed. Lena, chaos. I didn't send anyone to you. Please believe me. Are you okay? He stared at those words longer than he needed to. The relief arrived first, sharp as oxygen. Then anger came, not at her, at the world that had made this necessary. He typed, deleted, typed again. I'm fine. A suit brought a gift to return. I returned it. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared. I'm so sorry. I should have warned you. I fired him. Don't fire for me, he wrote, then amended. Fire for you if you needed to. I'm not fragile. You are human, she sent. That's rarer. He wanted to go to her right then to put his palm over the part of her chest where breath lived and say slow. He had another hour on shift and an oil pan that insisted on leaking like a secret. He did the job with his jaw set. By late afternoon, the news had found its cruelty. A gossip site posted a photo snapped through a telephoto lens. Darius and Lena's front step kiss, her hand at his neck, his thumb at her jaw, an intimacy that belonged to nobody but them. The headline did what headlines do when they're grinning. Blue chip CEO's mystery mechanic, while comments did something uglier. Darius's sister sent the link with, "Want me to fight the internet?" He answered, "Always." Then he put his phone face down and breathed through the hot, humiliating knowledge that his life was now content for people who had never fixed a thing. At 5, he went to Lena's. The street looked like itself and not at all. 2 extra cameras, a man with a microphone politely pretending he wasn't waiting for oxygen, a woman pretending to scroll while filming. The driver stood on the stoop, bulk forming a wall. He recognized Darius and shifted so he could slip inside like a message slid under a door. The house was a study in defense, shades half drawn, lights dim, June moving with the purposeful calm of a nurse in a storm. Max was at the table with crayons, drawing a spaceship that looked suspiciously like a toaster. He looked up, saw Darius, and his face did that light turning on thing children's faces do when their world is suddenly the right shape. "Darius!" he shouted. "We need triangles for launch." "On it, Commander," Darius said, to his own surprise hearing his voice come out steady. Lena appeared in the doorway in a sweatshirt and leggings, hair hauled into a knot she didn't care was crooked. She looked tired in a way makeup can't soften, also relieved, also furious, but not at him. When she reached him, she didn't kiss him. She pressed her forehead to his chest like she was checking his heartbeat with her skin. "I didn't know about Oliver," she said into his shirt. "He's been circling the chair for months. He thought he understood how to protect me. He only understands how to preserve optics." She drew back just enough to see his face. "Did he?" "He tried to buy a polite exit," Darius said. "I bought filters for a community shop." It cut through her armor again, that stupid, gentle thing. She laughed, which was halfway to a sob. "I hate that this is happening," she said, voice gone threadbare. "Not because of what anyone thinks, because Max's name will get search engines sticky, because my address will be guessed, because someone will take our kiss and make it a headline and then sell adverts against it. We can be boring," he said, "until they wander off." "I don't know how to be boring," she confessed miserably. "I tried once. I baked muffins and joined a Pilates studio and said I'm taking a break with a crisp smile. I nearly died of performing." "Okay," he said. "Then we'll be loud. Loud about toast. Loud about space. Loud about the parts they can't turn into content." She stared at him, then nodded once like a general who'd found a strategy she could live with. "Can you stay?" she asked, raw. "I have to write a statement that says nothing and everything, and I don't want to do it alone. June will do bedtime. Max will demand physics with bread. The word I hovered. He could see the sentence she wouldn't say. "I need you." "I'll stay," he said, "as long as you like." They wrote at the kitchen table while Max built a launch pad out of triangles. Lena's first draft was a blade, her second a shield. He watched her find the exact weight of honesty that wouldn't feed the wolves. "We're not confirming details about my personal life," she typed, "because consent matters. We ask for privacy, not as a performance, but as a boundary." She paused, then added, "When women say no, we don't owe anyone a prettier reason than no." "Say it," Darius encouraged, "in your voice." She looked up at him, and something like love flashed and then hid because it was too new to live under fluorescent light. She pressed send to the PR team. The driver fetched Max's bath as if he were retrieving a crown. After bedtime, the house became a different animal, quieter, cautious hope breathing under the stairs. They sat on the floor of the hallway stadium, backs against the wall, the laundry basket goal casting a ridiculous shadow. Outside, a camera clicked and June turned the radio louder by a notch, old soul songs doing their good work. "I keep thinking about chairs," Lena said, chin on her knee. "How men like Oliver try to rearrange them around me, and how safe I felt when you stood up and offered me yours without asking for anything back." "I didn't stand up to be noble," he said. "I stood up because you looked like you needed somewhere to put your body. That felt like the right size of kindness." She slid her hand into his, a slow, deliberate fit. "What if I need more?" she whispered. "Not from you. From this life. What if this is me getting greedy?" "Get greedy," he said. "We'll pay with toast if the bill comes due." Her laugh lifted, weak but real. She rested her temple against his shoulder. For a while they didn't talk. They listened to the house settle and to the rain that had started again, Manchester's one trick, merciful tonight like white noise. The knock, when it came, wasn't a reporter's rap. It was the quick, coded rhythm of someone who belonged once and shouldn't now. Lena stiffened so suddenly he felt it like a wire pulling tight. She stood, the soft animal of hope dropping to all fours, ears flat. The driver reached the door first, but Lena touched his sleeve. "It's mine," she said. She opened the door, the barest slit, and the man on the step smiled with his teeth. Younger than Oliver, hungrier. A suit you rent to make a point. A jaw you sharpen on other people's time. "Ethan," Lena said, and the way she said his name put winter in the hall. "You don't live here. You don't knock here." "We should talk," he said, eyes sliding over her shoulder in the way of men who inventory rooms for threats that might talk back. "You're making unwise choices. The board is restless. Your mechanic has become a liability." Darius didn't step into view. He stood where she could feel him, a warm fact in the cool air, waiting to be invited or not. Lena's hand swayed once at her side, then steadied. "My mechanic," she repeated and smiled, small, lethal. "You mean the man who makes toast at Bravery 4 and shows my son how to whisper confidence to a bull?" Ethan blinked, recalibrating. "We're talking about headlines, Lena." "No," she said. You are. I am talking about a hallway where my boy can breathe. Choose, then, Ethan said. The hallway or the boardroom. We don't live in a world where men like you get to make that a binary, she said, the tiredness going out of her voice like smoke, leaving iron. Close the door, June. June, who had materialized with the speed of a prayer, obeyed. The latch clicked. The sound was small and devastating. Lena stayed very still and very upright for 3 breaths. Then she leaned her head against the door and let the weight of all the chairs she'd been holding crash quietly to the floor. Darius crossed the hall without drama and put his palm between her shoulder blades, not to steady her, to witness the shift. She looked back at him, eyes filmed with salt and fight. He won't stop, she whispered. They never do. Then we won't either, he said. He felt then, before he heard it, Max padding down the stairs in dinosaur pajamas, thumb in mouth, hair wild. Mum? The boy asked, voice small in the big house. Is the moon following us again? Lena turned, crouched hair, gathered him. Always, she said into his hair. Always. Darius knelt beside them, and Max's free hand found his without looking, as if something inside him had already drawn the map. Outside, a camera clicked again, the rain hushing it, the house choosing what to hold and what to let go. In the crook of that ordinary moment, boy, mother, man, toast crumbs on the floor, Darius understood that love might be less a word and more a posture. The way you stand when weather changes, the way you offer a seat when the world forgets you need one. He didn't know yet how the next chapter would ask them to pay for all this. He only knew he had the right hands for the work.